What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Podcast. I am DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, it is an all NFT podcast. I mean, you guys seem to have enjoyed the last one we did back at basically the beginning of the year in January. This time, though, we are covering basically the first half of 2023 as terms to Funko NFT sets, including the set that's releasing today as we are recording this, which is the It Funko Series 1 drop. And then we will cover the second half of 2023 once we hit January. So I think that's how we'll do it, considering that Funko always likes to do drops every 2 weeks. So to get all of those drops in on one podcast is just too much. Like I mentioned, we're going to mention about each of the drops. I don't think I'm really going to be talking about much of the drops. I think it's just going to be MD. And then if I have anything to add, then I will. Besides, right after when he's done, we will be mentioning our favorites and least favorites of each drop. And then we're going to do something pretty cool as terms to near the end of the podcast. So without further ado, though, let's kick off with the very first drop of 2023. That is the Sid and Marty Krofft Series 1 dropped. It released on January 17th, 2023, which had a total of 12,500 standard and premium packs. The redeemables from this set, starting off with the Grail piece of 999 pieces being Horatio J. Hoodoo. Then with the legendaries all being limited to 1,400 pieces, we have Seymour Spider, Sleestack, and Jimmy. And then the royalty of the set being Freddy Funko as Sleestack, being limited to 2,700 pieces.
The Sid and Marty Krofft drop is actually pretty surprising to see. It's something that obviously Funko has made Funko Pops for before, but it's just a weird, niche kind of one. It's not very, well known to a lot of people. So I was very surprised and very happy about this drop. I think that there's a lot of really cool pops in here. I'm surprised that we didn't see anything with HR Puffin stuff when it comes to actual HR Puffin stuff rather than characters from it. But what we got here is really cool. I mean, Horatio J. Hoodoo is really cool, as well as Seymour Spider. And of course, I'm not surprised that we got a couple different variations of Sleestack with the Sleestack as well as the Freddy Funko. That just makes sense.
And as terms to favorites and least favorites, I'm going to have to say my least favorite probably, now as I look at it, maybe Jimmy. I don't know. There's just something about Jimmy that's a little weird. I was going to say Freddy Funko is Sleestack. And then my favorite probably has to be the Seymour Spider. The overall design looks cool with the forearms, and especially what they did with the eyes.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Least favorite has to be Jimmy. It is a cool pop, but it is just a human character. There's nothing super exciting going on with it. And then my favorite has to be the Seymour Spider. That is an unbelievable looking figure, and you almost can't tell it's a Funko Pop.
Next up, we have ourselves the Teen Titans Go Series 1 set, which released on January 31st with a total of 21,250 standard and premium packs. And the redeemable pops listed here for the Grail being obviously 999 pieces of Titan Robot, along with the legendaries limited to 1,800 pieces of Aqualad, Bumblebee, Red Robin, and Slade, and the royalty being Freddy Funko as Beast Boy, limited to 2,500 pieces.
This is an all right drop. I mean, Teen Titans Go, it seems like the products that Funko makes for Teen Titans Go isn't usually the best. This drop is okay. I like that they kind of do a bunch of different characters, and we're not getting a bunch of different variants of characters. Let's say these are all pretty much brand new characters. The Red Robin is pretty cool. It's really awesome to see Slade, and Bumblebee's pretty cool as well. And the Freddy Funko is actually pretty decent with this one with Beast Boy. I like how that looks.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, I'm going to have to say my least favorite is probably Aqualad. There's just, it looks cool in terms of the head sculpt, but I feel like I'm not the only one that thinks that. And then my favorite probably has to be, you know what? I'm probably going to give it actually to Freddy Funko as Beast Boy. Even though I wanted to give it to Red Robin, there's something about that Freddy Funko Beast Boy that I do enjoy about it.
It seems like so far we're right on the same page, because I agree with that. Aqualad is definitely the worst. There's just not a whole lot going on with that pop, where the other ones have a lot more detail. But the mouth on the pop is pretty cool. And yeah, I do think that the Freddy Funko as Beast Boy has to be the best. But like DK said, the Red Robin is a close second, because that's a sweet pop.
All right, so next up we have ourselves the Nicktoons or Nickelodeon Series 2 drop that had released on February 14th, Valentine's Day, which had 21,250 standard and premium packs, in which the redeemables we have here, starting off with the Grail of 999 pieces being Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life. And then we have the legendaries, all limited to 1,800 pieces of Cynthia from Rugrats, Ed Bighead from Rocco's Modern Life, Winslow from Cat Dog, and Professor Membrane from Invader Zim, with the royalty being Freddy Funko as Reptar, limited to 2,700 pieces.
This is a pretty sweet drop. I mean, everyone's got to love some Nickelodeon. And I feel like they did a decent job of having different shows in here, obviously, with Rocco's Modern Life, Rugrats. Cat Dog is a surprise considering we've only seen 2 Cat Dog pops with the normal as well as the SummerCon 2017 flocked Cat Dog pop, as well as Invader Zim. So, yeah, this is a pretty great set. There's a lot of really cool characters in here who haven't got pops. I think the Cynthia is really cool because that's like not even technically a character from Rugrats. It is just like a toy that Angelica has. So I think people had really wanted a Cynthia pop for a while now, especially with the newer Rugrats release of pop. So I'm not surprised they did it this way with the NFTs, because we did see Angelica holding Cynthia as kind of like a pop and buddy type deal. But getting its own singular one makes sense for the NFTs to be so limited.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, it was really difficult to name like a least favorite because I think these are all pretty decently solid pops, but I might have to go with the Winslow, only because I just feel like it's like the least recognizable out of the set that we have here. And my favorite probably has to be the Freddy Funko as Reptar, which, surprising enough, the fact that I've even named Freddy Funkos as the best in 2 sets so far is pretty surprising. I think my only gripe, though, maybe is that I wish this was slimed like the original Freddy Funko for Series 1, but nonetheless, it still looks pretty cool, though.
My least favorite from the set has to be the Rocco, just because we already have pops of Rocco. He even has his own chase version where he has like the red nose where he's like sick. So I think this is unnecessary, though it is a cool pop. I like how he's holding the weights and his arms are all flimsy like that. I think that that's pretty sweet, but it is the one character out of here that just didn't really need a like variation, whereas all the rest of the set is brand new characters that haven't seen pops. And the favorite has to be the Freddy Funko as Reptar. That's awesome. Reptar is wicked. And I like the way that they did this, where it's more of like him wearing a costume rather than actually being the character. I think that they don't really do that enough, and I think it turned out great with this pop.
Next up, we have ourselves the House of the Dragon Series 1 set, which released on February 28th. And this had 31,250 standard and premium packs, in which it is the only set so far in 2023 where the set actually ended as terms to sales, and that they didn't quite sell out the 31,250 instead of completely selling out like the rest. But the redeemables we have here, which there are a total of 6, with the Grail of 999 pieces being Daemon Targaryen, along with legendary pops that are limited to 2,600 pieces of Aemon Targaryen, Rhaenyra Targaryen, Sir Criston Cole, and Viserys Targaryen. And then the royalty is actually not a Freddy Funko, but it is a dragon, that being Vhagar. I don't know if that's pronounced right, but that's limited to 3,500 pieces.
I'm not really surprised that this drop didn't sell out, though House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones is like a huge franchise. I just think that a lot of this set is just human characters. There's nothing crazy going on, at least in my opinion. I don't know. I haven't seen House of the Dragon, so I wouldn't know if there's like a bunch of significance with some of these pops. But most of it, besides the dragon, is all just human characters. So I don't think it's that hype, though the detail on these is really good. I think that, yeah, it's just a pretty basic kind of drop. And again, not surprised it didn't sell out.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, I'm going to have to go for my least favorite being Rhaenyra Targaryen. There's just nothing really going on compared to the other characters. I mean, there isn't really nothing going on with a lot of the human characters, but this one has the least going on, I would have to say. And then my favorite has to be especially the series Targaryen, where basically the face, you can see the detail of it, like missing an eye and just like a huge like gash in the face. I think out of all the human characters, that has a lot of details. Although I did consider the royalty possibly being the pop that I was going to choose.
My least favorite also has to be the Rhaenyra Targaryen. Yeah, like you said, there's just not a lot going on with this pop compared to the rest of them. As like terms to detail, the hair is kind of interesting, but at the same time, it kind of just looks like a strawberry cream cake or whatever. And then my favorite has to be the royalty with the Vagar, however it's pronounced. I think that that's the most interesting pop. And I mean, it is House of the Dragon. I'm surprised that they didn't do more dragons in this drop. But for the actual lineup of House of the Dragon pops, I know that they did do a few of the different dragons. So I guess it makes sense. I don't know if this is like one of the more popular ones or if this is like a kind of like background dragon, I guess. But I think that it makes sense to have a dragon in there, and it's got to be the best pop out of the set.
Next up, we have ourselves Dungeons and Dragons Series 1. It released on March 14th, 2023, with them having 15,000 for both standard and premium packs. And the redeemable pops we have here, there's only 5, but the Grail, of course, of 999 pieces, being a Aceric, along with legendary pops, all being limited to 1,640 pieces of Demogorgon, Displacer Beast, and Owlbear, and the royalty being Freddy Funko as High Elf, limited to 2,500 pieces.
This is a cool drop. It's surprising that there is only 5 pops in here. I think they could have got away with having like a full set of 6 pops, but the choices that they made are really cool. I like the Owlbear. I think that that's pretty awesome. The Displacer Beast, that's a pretty interesting pop. Finally, we have a Demogorgon for the Dungeons and Dragons set. That just makes a lot of sense, and I think that it turned out pretty damn good. The Acerac, or however it's pronounced, that's a pretty interesting pop too, but it does like seem like some pops that we've seen before. It doesn't really seem like super special. And then the Freddy Funko as High Elf, that's okay. Definitely not one of the best Freddy Funkos, especially when it comes to the NFT sets, but it's not bad at all, especially if you are a fan of, let's say, like a High Elf.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, my least favorite, I'm gonna have to go with the Freddy Funko as High Elf, and it's not because of what I normally say about Freddy Funkos and why I normally dislike them. It's just when you have such a cool set like Dungeons and Dragons and you see all these cool monsters, you can't really compete against them. So it's kind of like has a huge disadvantage, like we talked about actually pretty much with the Looney Tunes drop on the last podcast, where like there were so many cool pops in that one. You can really have that Freddy Funko compete with the characters in that set. That had to be the worst here. And then I'm gonna probably have to go with the Grail of Acerac. Like, I really love the detail as terms of the face, and especially where you kind of do have a pupil within the eyeball, so you do get 2 different colors, and then the color that they have the teeth, almost making it look like a glow-in-the-dark pop without being glow-in-the-dark. Although my second closest one probably would have been Owlbear.
My least favorite has to be the Freddy Funko. DK summed it up pretty well. The rest of the pops are pretty dang good, and this one is just a little bit basic. And then my favorite pop out of this drop has to be the Demogorgon. I think that it's cool that you kind of get like a 2-for-1 because the Demogorgon does have 2 heads. The detail is pretty dang good on it, and I feel like it really does do a service, or whatever you'd say, to D&D fans, because especially with how the Demogorgon has been portrayed in Stranger Things, I know that D&D fans didn't love that because that's not what a Demogorgon looks like. So I think Funko did a good job of adding a Demogorgon to this set.
Next up, we have ourselves the Hanna-Barbera Funko Series 2 drop, which this set released on March 28th, 2023, which this had 18,250 standard and premium packs, in which the set did have 5 redeemables also, which kicking off with the 999-piece Grail of Huckleberry Hound, along with the legendary pops being limited to 2,000 pieces of Birdman, Mighty Mightor, and Mr. Jinx with Dixie and Pixie, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Letterman, limited to 2,300 pieces.
This drop is okay. It makes sense that there would be a Huckleberry Hound in this, especially as the Grail. And then for the rest of the set, I mean, it's okay. I definitely think they could have picked some better characters for Hanna-Barbera that would have sold this set more, though I think it did sell out. But overall, it is good. The Freddy Funko, I think, is pretty sweet as well. I like the Letterman jacket, and of course, holding Huckleberry Hound just makes sense to have in an NFT drop.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, I think my least favorite might have to be, well, I kind of already said it, Mighty Mightor. It's very similar kind of to the Birdman, but it's a little bit more basic. And I almost wanted to put Huckleberry Hound, but I do like this version of Huckleberry Hound more than the one we had in the first Hanna-Barbera drop. And then my favorite has to be Birdman. I really like the posing that's in, especially it's in a flying stance and has some cool wings and especially some energy coming out of the hand. I think that one was really well done.
Yeah, my least favorite is also the Mighty Mightor. Not a lot going on with it, though. Like DK said, it's almost the Huckleberry Hound, but that is actually a pretty decent Huckleberry Hound, though we have seen so many Huckleberry Hound Funko products at this point. And my favorite from this drop, I think, has to be the Mr. Jinx with Dixie and Pixie. I think it's a cool pop. I like the way that he's holding Dixie and Pixie. I think that that looks good. And it is almost like a 3-for-1 deal where it's a pop and two buddies. So that's awesome.
Next drop we have is the April Fool's 2023 drop, releasing on March 31st, in which this set only had 7,500 standard and premium packs, in which there were only 3 redeemables for this set, which, of course, first off, the Grail of Freddy Funko with the Max token head. I guess you can call it a Funko Pop, limited to 999 pieces. Then for the one legendary that was in the set, limited to 2,000 pieces, is Egg. And then the royalty being Baby Freddy, limited to 2,250 pieces.
This set's very interesting. It's unlike any of the other sets we've seen. Of course, there is only 3 pops in it. It was so sudden. We didn't even really know about this drop. And overall, I think all 3 of these pops are really good. Starting off with the Freddy Funko with the Max token head. That makes sense. I like the way the shirt looks, and as well as, of course, Max token head being held by Freddy Funko, kind of 2 mascots for these Funko products is cool. And then we have Egg, which is just a hilarious pop, and I really do enjoy that. And I think other people really got a kick out of it as well. And then the Baby Freddy, this is interesting too. I really like how this looks, and I like how they added like the wacky wobbler in his hand. I think that that was interesting rather than going for normally what they do nowadays, where they basically have, if there's a toy or a character being held in someone's hand, it is normally popified, but they're kind of going back to the roots with the wacky wobbler, which makes a lot of sense considering it is Baby Freddy.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, I'm going to have to say my least favorite would be Egg. Only because, I mean, it's literally the shape of, well, I mean, obviously it's the shape of an egg, but I feel like you get more with either the Baby Freddy or the Freddy Funko with Max token head. And this one's very difficult because both figures are holding figures in their hand, but I'm going to go with the Grail in this case, Freddy Funko holding Max token head, just because I've been waiting for Funko to do a pop of Max token head, which for those that might not know, Max token head is the, like, I guess you can call it the Freddy Funko of drop that does these NFT drops. So I'm hoping one day maybe they do that. I was kind of hoping for them to do a Max token head slimed pop for the Nickelodeon set. Maybe that will hopefully happen if they do a series 3, but I'm going to go with the Grail pop for my favorite and the Egg for my least favorite.
My least favorite is also the Egg. It's just, it's an egg. It is what it is. And then my favorite, I think, has to be the Baby Freddy. It is a tough choice because they're both so good. But I think what really puts the Baby Freddy over is, like I said, with the wacky wobbler aspect, as well as the size of the crown being massive on his head to really actually show that he is a baby and he's smaller. I think that that's a really cool detail that they added rather than just giving him like the crown that they would put on a normal Freddy Funko.
All right, so the next drop that happened, we wouldn't get a drop for over a month later. We never got one throughout the month of April, was the Flintstones Series 1 drop happening on May 9th, 2023, which this set had a total of 16,250 standard and premium packs, in which this set had 5 redeemable pops. First off being the Grail of, I guess you can call it Chef Fred Flintstone, and then the legendary pops all being limited to 1,800 pieces, being Barney Rubble, Dino, and Wilma Flintstone with Pebbles, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko as Fred Flintstone, which was limited to 2,000 pieces.
This set's pretty decent. There are some pops in here that aren't as good as others, but that goes for any drop. The Fred Flintstone with the chef hat is pretty cool, but we have seen stuff like this before. The Barney Fireman, that's okay. I just don't think there's a whole lot going on with it. The Dino is really cool. It's the first standalone Dino with the normal color, where basically he's not a variant color and not in, like, let's say, with the pop rides of Dino. Then we have Wilma with Pebbles, and this is okay, though we have already seen a Wilma pop and we have seen a Pebbles pop. I don't necessarily think you need a pop where they're both together. And then the Freddy Funko is Fred Flintstone. This is a pretty cool pop, but it's nothing too crazy.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, I'm gonna have to go with Barney Rubble as my least favorite, just because there's nothing really going on with it. I was gonna go with Wilma and Pebbles, but at least Wilma has something with her to make it a bit better than the Barney. And then my favorite has to be the standalone Dino.
My least favorite has to be the Wilma, just because, like I said, we already have a Wilma pop. We already have a Pebbles pop. I don't think you need to do the pop and buddy aspect. I feel like it was just a pop that was added in here to kind of fill out the set. So for that reason, it's got to be my least favorite. And my favorite is also the Dino, though the Freddy Funko is got to be a close second because I do really enjoy the Water Buffalo hat.
Next up, we have ourselves the Dark Knight Trilogy set, released May 23rd, 2023, which this had 22,500 standard and premium packs. First off, for the redeemables, there's a total of 6, with the Grail, 999 pieces, being Harvey Dent, along with legendary pops, all being limited to 1,900 pieces, being Bane with the Batman mask, Bruce Wayne in tux, Scarecrow, and Selina Kyle, with the royalty being Freddy Funko as Lieutenant James Gordon, limited to 2,400 pieces.
Now, this is a really good drop. I think that they got a lot of characters in here. We're not seeing a new variation of Batman. Obviously, there is Bruce Wayne, but not Batman, the actual character. So I think that this is kind of a perfect drop for that. And the characters that they picked with Harvey Dent and Bane, the Bane is pretty sweet. Selina Kyle, we have seen a bunch of pops of her, but I do think this one is pretty good. And Scarecrow, this is just a really solid drop.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, and yeah, this one's a bit difficult because, like you mentioned, this is a very solid drop. And for least favorite, I might have to go with Selina Kyle, only because we've gotten a lot of Selina Kyles as of late. I think I even mentioned this when we originally talked about this on one of our editions of a Funko Popcast. We've gotten a lot of Selina Kyles within the last year or two because of the Batman movie. And then my favorite definitely has to be the Grail of Harvey Dent. We haven't had a Harvey Dent pop yet, and now we have it here. The face looks absolutely amazing, where it's blown off, it's burnt. They have a white eye, and then you have like the gums just melting with the teeth. Like, it's just an absolutely well done pop. And of course, he is holding the coin in his other hand.
My least favorite from this set, I think, is got to be the Freddy Funko, actually. There's just not a ton going on with this Freddy Funko, though I do think he looks pretty silly as Lieutenant James Gordon. I think that, like, just the way that it looks is kind of funny, but I don't know. I was going to go with Selina Kyle, but I do really enjoy the way that that pop looks. And my favorite, of course, has to be the Harvey Dent. That is an unbelievable pop. It looks so good. Just a lot of detail, and I think that it's just a wicked pop.
Next drop we have is the Adventure Time Series 1 set, released June 6, 2023, in which this set had 18,750 standard and premium packs. We have 6 redeemable pops here, starting off with the 999-piece Grail, being Finn the Human, along with the legendary pops being limited to 1,600 pieces of gold, Lady Rainicorn, Peppermint Butler, and Randy Butternubs, and then the royalty being Freddy Funko in Jake suit, limited to 2,300 pieces.
This is an interesting drop. I mean, it's really cool that we're getting some different characters for Adventure Time, which doesn't really get that much pops at all anymore. So I think that this is a pretty cool drop overall, and the pops look really good.
Yeah, so as terms to favorites and least favorites, yeah, this once again is a pretty decent drop. My least favorite, it's a toss-up between, I believe, Peppermint Butler and the Finn the Human, but the Finn the Human does look pretty cool, so I might have to go with Peppermint Butler, just because you might be getting less of a figure because of the way the shape is compared to, let's say, Lady Rainicorn and obviously Randy Butternubs and all the other figures. And then speaking of Randy Butternubs, that is my favorite of this set, the legendary of Jake, where I believe in this episode, from the couple episodes I have seen, he is a magician, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty cool version of Jake the dog.
Yeah, I have to agree with that completely. The Peppermint Butler, though it is an interesting pop, it's got to be my least favorite out of this. And my favorite, of course, is the Randy Butternubs. That is a hilarious pop, and I'm so happy that they did make a version of Jake the dog like this, and the detail in it is the best out of the set.
And then the last set before we move on to one of our last segments, the new drop that happens today as we're recording this podcast, that being the Funko Series 1 drop, in which this will have 21,250 standard and premium packs, in which there's 6 redeemables for the set, in which we have ourselves the Grail, 999 pieces being Defeated Pennywise, along with legendary pops that are limited of 1,800 pieces being Henry Bowers, Leper, Lumberjack, and Patrick Hockstetter, with the royalty being Freddie Funko as Meltdown Pennywise.
I think that this drop is super unnecessary. We've seen so many It Pops previously, though there is a lot of different character changes. I think that they had to add at least one Pennywise in here, so that makes sense. But I don't know. I think that something else could have been done in place of this It drop.
Talking about favorites and least favorites. Least favorite, I'm going to have to actually go with the Grail of Defeated Pennywise. It just isn't one of the better Pennywise pops. They've done so many, so it is to be expected at this point for there to be not that many great Pennywise pops. Because of that, I even like the Freddie Funko Pennywise in this case much better than what we have with the Grail pop. And it's pretty difficult to choose a favorite, considering that, not going to lie, this was very surprising because I felt that this set wasn't going to be entirely great, but these are some banger pops as terms to detail. So out of all these ones, I am going to go with probably one of the legendaries, and I think I'm going to have to go with Leper out of all of them, just because of the detail. You got like that greenish eye, the eye that's missing, and just the different details in terms of the hair and the posing. You got the drool coming down the mouth. Like, this is a pretty insanely detailed pop.
Yeah, I have to agree that my least favorite has to be the Defeated Pennywise. We've seen so many Pennywise pops, and this one is just, it's weird looking. It's definitely not one of the best, though. I think that if someone is a big fan of it, they might want to get a Defeated Pennywise, but definitely the worst out of this set. And my favorite, it is tough because there is a lot of really good detail with these pops. Originally, I was thinking Lumberjack because I do like the design of it, but I think I'm going to go with the Patrick Hockstetter just because the detail on the face and the mouth, as well as the detail on the shirt, the decal looks really good on there, and overall it is a pretty solid pop.
And now that we're done talking about all of the drops, we're going to be doing a little cool segment on what we think our favorites are from these drops as terms to some categories. So we're going to be doing our favorite royalty, favorite legendary, favorite Grail, and our favorite set overall throughout what we've seen so far in 2023. So we might as well do this one at a time as terms to, I'll go through my list and then we'll go through MD's list right after. So for me, my favorite royalty would probably have to be the Freddie Funko as Reptar from the Nickelodeon Series 2 set. I think that one was well done, and it was either that or the Freddie Funko in the Jake suit, but I felt I had more gripes with that one compared to the Reptar, which my only gripe was that I wanted it to be slimed. But nonetheless, I think that that pop was really cool as terms to a royalty pop. And then my favorite legendary, this one was difficult. Obviously, there are more legendaries than both Grails and royalties because there's only one in each set for those categories. I think I might have to go with Bane from the Dark Knight set. That pop was really cool to see, considering we have not gotten a Bane pop in God knows how long, at least maybe 10 years at this point, because that set came out in 2013, I think. So really cool to see that pop. And speaking of Dark Knight, that's going to be the Grail also. Harvey Dent, that is my favorite Grail that they have done so far. That's a really cool pop. So much detail and of a character that has never been made into pop form yet. So that's really cool to see. And then talking about my overall favorite set, I think maybe I might have given it away with what I've said so far. So the Dark Knight trilogy is my favorite set that they have done thus far. I think it's pretty much all solid pops. The Selena Kyle is a little meh, but I mean, it is to be expected. And then I actually kind of dig the Freddy Funko Lieutenant James Gordon, even though a lot of people don't really like that pop. But nonetheless, that's like a little bit of minor gripes, not too much to affect the entire set, where you do have new pops like Scarecrow, Harvey Dent. Even seeing a Bruce Wayne as a pop is really cool. That was a set that I popped huge for when it was announced. So that's got to be my favorite set of 2023 thus far.
All right, starting off with my favorite royalty, I also went with Freddy Funko as Reptar. I think that that's a really cool version of Freddy Funko. And like I said, it's not him actually as that character. It's him like more or less like wearing a suit, which I think is a really awesome idea. And we don't see that enough with Freddy Funkos. My favorite legendary, I went with Seymour Spider. I think that that is a super interesting pop. The way that the eyes look is crazy, and the pop itself is really amazing. I just wish it was flocked. I think that that would have made it like just an unbelievable pop, but it's still really crazy. And then the Grail I went with is Harvey Dent from the Dark Knight drop. That is a really awesome pop, and it's got the detail. It looks good, and it's from a set that's really awesome, which I almost picked the Dark Knight set as my favorite drop so far for 2023, but I actually went with the Nicktoons 2.0. I think they did a good job of getting some characters that were needed in pop form. I mean, we have Winslow from Cat Dog, where we haven't seen a lot of Cat Dog pops, only just the two, like I had mentioned. And then you also get a new pop for Invader Zim. And I think it was just a really good set and got some like not major characters out of the way to kind of fill in your Nickelodeon shows for that collection. So I think it was a really good set, but Dark Knight is definitely a close second. That is a super solid set.
And to end off this podcast, I thought it would be a good idea to discuss about those potential leaks / rumors. I know as you guys are listening to this past week on the channel, I did release a video of me talking about them, but I wanted to know MD's opinion about the 9 potential sets that are possibly going to be happening. And it's kind of a good idea to discuss about this because we could be talking about these on the next NFT podcast. I will go over the list since I do have the photos here. Mickey and Friends, Jurassic Park, Funko Holiday 2023, Funko Halloween 2023, Digital Funko 25th, Steven Universe, Squid Game, Back to the Future, and Stranger Things. I don't know what kind of order you want to go through. Maybe even save Stranger Things till last because I know you're a huge fan of Stranger Things. I don't know how you want to do this, but the floor is yours.
So the first thing is we have the 25th anniversary of Funko, and this could be just about anything. I think it'll be kind of similar to the April Fool's pops where you have like some cool things that are added through like Funko's history, and I'm pretty excited to see what that is. Then we have the Funko Halloween. I would assume this will probably be Funko made characters and not like, let's say, like Jack Skellington and other like Halloween movies. It'll probably be Funko Halloween things. And then the Funko Holiday, I think, will be exactly the same. We'll see some Funko made characters that are dealing with Christmas and the holidays. Then we have Jurassic Park. I think that this could be really cool. I don't know what needs to still be done because we've seen a lot of really good Jurassic Park pops recently, but I'm sure Funko could think of stuff where we get some cool added dinosaurs for the collection. Mickey and Friends, this one might be a little lackluster, but I do hope that we can see some cool pops, maybe like Clarabelle Cow. I think that would be a really interesting one to see a new pop of, and maybe that's something that we'll get with that. Then we have Steven Universe, and this is interesting considering we haven't had Steven Universe pops in quite some time now, but I am excited about that, and I really hope that there's going to be a Bismuth pop in this set. If there is, I will definitely be buying packs and trying to get that character in pop form. Then we have Squid Game. This is not a good idea, if I'm being frank. I mean, the Squid Game pops did not sell very well. They even went to our dollar store here in Canada because there was just too many of them and they weren't selling well. And I don't know what they could do that they haven't done that needs to be done NFT-wise, so I don't know. Back to the Future, this is basically one of the top things that DK collects, so I'm sure he's very excited about this, though it'll be hard to get all of them, but I'm sure that's something that he might want to try to do. We could definitely see a lot of really cool things for Back to the Future with the NFT set. I'm excited to see what we get. And then lastly, we have Stranger Things, which is basically one of the biggest things that I collect when it comes to Funko. And yeah, again, like I said, it's going to be hard to collect them all, but I'm definitely going to be ripping packs of these Stranger Things NFT pops if this does come true, obviously. And I hope it's a good set. I think that there's room to make characters that haven't been made. And I think that we could see some really cool stuff out of this set. Hopefully, I'm able to pull at least a couple of the pops so that buying them down the line is just a little bit easier and won't break the bank. But yeah, definitely going to want to get all of these Stranger Things pops.
Anyways, guys, that is going to be the end of this week's podcast. If you enjoyed this edition of a Funko Podcast, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what your favorite set was so far in 2023 as terms of the Funko NFTs. But I hope to see you guys on another edition of a Funko Podcast. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Peace in, peace out.